right? So I think we're live. Welcome to our first online growth hacking meetup. So due to the Corona crisis, we decided to do this online. We normally meet in Zurich, where we have founders of companies presenting their cases and panel of experts. And this time we thought we were getting quite a lot of inquiries from various businesses, what they should do and how they should answer the crisis. And we decided to bring in a couple experts to talk about growth hacking, but also with focus on marketing and sales, and to see kind of how we can help and what tips can we give to businesses to tackle the crisis. I'm just going to check if the feed is working because I'm getting an error. Yeah, I think it's working fine. So I guess we can quickly just start with an introduction, just to make sure everyone knows who is on the call. So my name is Luke Skudlarek. I'm the founding partner and growth hacking lead at what.digital, growth hacking agency in Zurich. And today I will facilitate the conversation. We've never done it in this format, so it's the first time we're doing it online. So I had to prepare new software, new setup. But I guess everyone these days have challenges with setting up their working from home environment. So I'm not the only one here. So yeah, I'll let everyone maybe quickly introduce themselves, and then we'll get started. So Lydia, would you like to start?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Lydia Bronze, and I specialize in marketing strategy. Of course, having challenges of my own these days because most of the projects I'm working on are currently related to physical events. So really happy to be here today and also hear from the other experts.
Cool. So yeah, Lucia, maybe you're next since we started with the ladies.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Lucia. I'm a search business consultant and trainer on different Swiss institutes, but also helping small and medium businesses to help out, actually to learn everything concerning analytics, SEO, and Google Ads. I've been working at Google 15 years ago, so that's about the time I've been doing search engine marketing.
Cool, perfect. Marcus? We can't hear you, you're muted. Classic.
It helps to unmute. Hi, everybody. My name is Marcus Lehmann, and I'm the CEO and founder of Philabel of Switzerland, a cosmetic brand in Switzerland.
Joel?
Good. Hello, everyone. My name is Joel Kapt. I'm the head of growth at Beekeeper. Beekeeper, we're providing internal communication and collaborations, software, and definitely also a lot going on during those Corona times.
Cool. So maybe we will start with that. I mean, one of the things I wanted to do to kind of warm up and start a discussion is to ask you how your business or your clients were impacted by the crisis in terms of specifically your marketing and sales. And kind of what have you learned so far, and maybe we can go in the opposite direction. I don't know, starting with you, Joel, if you can give us also a quick summary or anything that you can share.
Mm-hmm, sure. So as I mentioned, Beekeeper, we're providing internal communications and collaboration for companies with high amounts of non-desktop employees. So typically hospitality sector, retail, manufacturing, and those industries. And of course, with all read it in the media, everyone is now running for Zoom, Skype, and other tools. And basically, we're surfing the same wave. So our inbound leads exploded over the past weeks. Sales cycles that usually take half a year are now done within 3 days. So a lot of work for sales and marketing. So this is more on the offensive, positive side, but then of course also on the negative side, We have customers that are in trouble, especially within the entire hospitality sector. Also, all of retail, which is non-grocery stores, basically is having trouble asking to prolong like payments, for example. So at the moment, we're balancing between like offensive and defensive play. We're like working out different scenarios, how we could go over the entire year, trying to make the best decision on where to put like resources and efforts to basically make the best out of it. And in terms of marketing, I would say we just gave our best to react as fast as possible with some like very short-term setup campaigns. Of course, we adapted the value proposition for this campaign to the newly created pains around the coronavirus and launched as fast as possible. And now we're in a phase where we are like revamping and restructuring the campaigns to better adapt them to the needs of our customers.
And what do you see in terms of kind of existing customers? Do you think your licenses or your pricing need to change, or do you think they're at danger of kind of missing some payments, or they will stop using the tool, or what is the biggest concern there?
So in terms of concerns around customers, it's just that like some customers definitely already can foresee that they're going to have payment problems. This is at least what I have been informed with. And there we're like working closely together with our customers to basically facilitate the environment for them. A big selling point of Beekeeper has always been our customer success team. This is also one big differentiator through to our like competitors. And this comes in very, very handy in this situation, of course, that we have like very good customer relationships and also very well-trained staff to basically tackle those challenging times.
Sure. But you're probably anyway in a category of companies that will benefit from this situation in a way.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, this is what we are trying to evaluate, and also where we have the balance between offensive and defensive game. But overall, compared to like other industries, yes, of course, like people are yelling for solutions we provide at the moment. Our like weekly active usage also of existing clients is going through the roof like never before. And also like existing clients are asking for like account expansion, using additional features and such. Which of course is very positive.
Great. And you said also you adjusted your existing campaigns to kind of this new situation. And what specifically have you changed in those campaigns in terms of communication?
Yeah. So the Beekeeper platform covers like a range of different pain points and also covers a range of different buyer personas. Definitely everything started around internal communication. But also we're targeting like, for example, HR with like employee engagement, reducing employee turnover, also going more into like operationality, like employee efficiency and all of that stuff, and also focusing on the IT buyer and persona as like being that one hub that connects all the employees and all the different tools you use to manage your employees. And now with the coronavirus, we're definitely like, for that particular campaign, reshuffled our like value proposition. So the entire campaign is designed to basically pick on the pain point of internal communications / crisis communication, and then basically explain exactly with what features of Beekeeper you can solve those exact pains.
Okay.
Yes.
But you didn't plan, for example, starting like a Corona package, just like a mini package to get started with Beekeeper, because I guess it's already quite easy to start with the tool, or have you considered something?
No, we did.
Right.
We did. So the first implementation of the campaign, of course, was very lean, but very fast. We refined and retuned. And what we do now is we of course think one important fact within this entire Corona times is also that you kind of like human, that you really provide value and that you are helpful. This is why we decided for industries that are heavily impacted, like, for example, healthcare or senior living, that we make a special offer for those industries that they can use Beekeeper 6 months for free. and that we also offer them to like set up the tenant. And then we're just about to launch a global campaign around crisis communication, where we also offer the tool 2 weeks until 30 weeks for free. That comes also with a specific tenant with a so-called crisis communication kit, and also with a dedicated customer success manager. So the new companies are actually up and running within only 48 hours, because urgency is a big pain at the moment.
Very cool. So yeah, I guess, I mean, I think we've seen a lot of these examples, and I think we can maybe shift to Marcus, because I remember asking Marcus to log into Slack for nearly a year, and thanks to Corona in double quotes, he is now on Slack since a week, and we're now doing a video broadcast with him. So I think the negative impact, I mean, the positive impact of this negative situation is that some people who maybe were reluctant to different tools are now jumping on them. So I guess that's a good thing for Beekeeper. And how was it for you, Marcus, at Philabe? That was changed in your kind of work life, and also impact on marketing and sales?
Well, from the point of view of work life, I have to say I really enjoy working from home. People don't just jump into my office asking me questions. They really think before. And that's really true. I have much more time to focus on what I'm doing. So from that side, it's very positive. Now, for a company like us, it's a bit more complex a situation, because logistics is one of the key issues, and also distribution that we have to carefully manage. And one thing is, as we are sourcing our raw materials in Southeast Asia / South Korea, and then manufacture them partly in Germany, partly in Switzerland into the final product. We really started already in early January, when I saw that there is a virus crisis coming on in Wuhan. For some luck, I knew that there is 300,000 Wuhan Chinese in Lombardy in the textiles industry, and we're a textile product as a cosmetic product. So that's my business, and we really ordered for 8 months raw material into Germany and let it be manufactured into raw material. So we're all set. But that was probably the biggest fear I had, that we would not be fast enough to, in the end, be able to supply our customers with products. Then we are facing the distribution situation. We are like 70% of our sales are online. We see a slight increase in online sales, bigger than the expected increase that we would have expected really in terms of the marketing campaigns that we're running. But 30% is through pharmacies. And pharmacies, typically they don't buy at the company itself. They go through big logistics companies. And these guys, they sent us a mailing like last week, hey, sorry, now it's all about pharmaceuticals and corona-related products, cosmetic and that stuff. We can't guarantee delivery anymore to the pharmacies. So we were kind of cut off of about 30% of our revenues. But we tackled that already a while ago too, not for any virus situation or anything. We just wanted to make sure to be able to do direct deliveries to the pharmacies by ourselves. So what we did is, first campaign we did was really almost a bricks and mortar campaign. We sent letters to all the pharmacies telling them that we first of all help them to keep their customers, because they will lose customers to online. That's their biggest fear, which means we suggested them to use an app that we have developed a while ago, where they can suggest customers to buy in our shop, giving them a code where they can buy at a cheaper price by handing over their email address, and then they're kind of logged into the pharmacy. And whenever this customer buys online, the pharmacy will make their margin, even if they don't even talk to the customer. So they were highly reluctant to take up that app half a year ago, and now they love us for it, because we're the only ones who can offer it to them. And in that sense, it was good what happened, because similar to me, you brought me into Slack, and these people were brought up into the Filabe app, and we'll now monitor and see what it really does. But we have orders, quite some, from that side already, so it seems to be working.
So can you quickly explain the mechanics of the app to everyone who is maybe not familiar with the process? So how does it work, and what problem does it solve exactly?
Well, it's actually a pretty easy app. You have the products there, and as a pharmacy, you have your customer data. You know the email addresses of these customers and so on, of the regular customers. So you actually link this app to your database, and you send to these customers emails telling them, look, this is the code XYZ, and that's the product you always purchased with us from Filabe. Now you have a 10% discount on it if you buy it on the Filabe webpage. When the customer hits the link, he's already in our checkout. And he sees the prices, he sees the discounts, and for the customer, actually it's easier because he doesn't even have to go to the pharmacy to buy it. And the pharmacy in live real time, they see when somebody is buying with their codes. Now, these codes are individual, which means each person gets a different code related to the pharmacy.
Excellent. And so I guess the app existed for a while, and before there was no incentive for pharmacies to kind of use it, right? So
we had like 10 pharmacies using it. It was designed like 2 years ago, actually. And it was rather designed for medical doctors, because these guys, they don't see their customers twice. Sure. Nobody goes to a doctor to buy a product.
I have this app. It's called, I think it's called Filabe Partner. Right?
It's Filabe Partners, yeah.
Because someone is also asking on the live chat, so it's Filabe Partner app. Okay, interesting. So it's also made them more digitally aware of.
We'll see whether it will really happen. Currently, it looks like it works. Okay, yes.
Great. And is there, before we move on to maybe Lucia or Lydia, is there anything else in terms of communication? I mean, we can go also through it later, because I wanted to talk about Filabe and our hygiene campaign. But except for that, do you see any other kind of impact on your communication or sales?
Well, I mean, for me, when you look at a product in such a crisis, which is clearly an external factor, then the question is, what is really a differentiating USP that helps a customer in the current situation? I wouldn't want to run a campaign, there is Corona, now we have Filabe, it's so great, because that's rather negative in perception. We need to show customers or the market that we have an expertise in the specific needs they face currently. And we definitely have as Filabe as a technology, because it's all about skin hygiene. What we are doing, we're focusing on problematic skin, on skin problems. Basically, we're not so much a beauty brand. And having a skin problem is predominantly a problem of skin hygiene, which doesn't mean that these people don't take a shower every day or don't wash their faces. It's just they're using the wrong products. And Filabe there is really super well positioned because it stabilizes the skin's basic basic competencies, if you want. So actually, it helps in the current crisis. But the campaign, as you have seen, we have started a hygiene campaign. Typically, we don't talk about that because we fear that people see us as a cleanser. And our product is not a cleanser, it cleanses as well. That's something quite different. But when you see a tissue, everybody thinks of a cleanser automatically, and then they don't pay our prices. They come back and they ask us whether we're crazy to take 60 francs for 28 days. So it's kind of, we have to be cautious about how to switch campaigns and not to also ruin the brand positioning which we have, which is a problem solver and not a cleanser.
Sure.
I guess that is basically what we're trying to do. Be cautious about what we do, help customers to find solutions for their fears, which they have. Everybody currently, I believe, is fearing being infected or having close people that are infected, and help them show competence. And even if it's outside of Philabe, they can see that we give them an idea or a way to think about to handle a problem. I think that's very important now as a brand, as a consumer care brand.
Mm-hmm. And maybe we'll move on to Lucia now, because we'll come back to Philabe later to talk about the hygiene campaign. Lucia, you work with a number of businesses, SMEs, and you meet a lot of people. Do you what do you see, and what kind of advice would you give to companies right now?
Yeah, I have a very diverse business. One part is education. So I work in the big Swiss institutions like Clubschule and diverse Fachhochschulen. I don't know how to translate, but kind of universities, more practical side. And it was very interesting to see how they reacted in matters of courses and lectures. Some were just closing down and actually there's nothing happening. Others were simply switching to online. And again, others, I had to take initiative to convince them, hey, let's do a Google Meet, let's do a Google Hangout, let's do something. I mean, sure, I also know Zoom, WebEx, and so on, but since I mainly work with the Google tools, I will continue pushing them. But it was a little bit funny that all these projects about blended learning, let's go digital, they all had papers about it, but very often they just didn't do anything. So that's a little positive effect, a little bit like Marky said, like, yeah, Slack, crazy, I don't like it, now you do it. So sometimes you have to push them a bit to get it running. Business side-wise, when I consult companies, there was a very diverse response. Some is mainly in the tourist, hotellery, gastronomic sector. They were really closing down, stopping ads campaigns and really shutting it off. I think some of them should have kept them running and focus on September, October winter business and not just say, hey, we don't do anything, because I strongly believe that one day this crisis will be over and business will start running as usual again, and maybe even stronger. Others like doctors, clinics, I also consult them. They reacted a bit similar because many patients were not expecting being able to go to meet them, and they cannot really transform their business into digital. So that was like a shutdown. And again, others like all the online shops and businesses where you can keep on running on digital, they were actually sending me emails and asking for help, how they can grow it, push it, enlarge it. I had a lot of trainings the last 10 days, so home office is nothing new to me. VCs either. What's new for me is home office with the kids behind. Yeah, that's not so easy because in the morning they really get something to do. In the afternoon it's like, Mommy, can I do this or that? And I'm like, just a second. So it's not that easy. So I'm not really up.
So thanks for even more for participating this afternoon. I know it's not so easy. And in terms,
got my husband back now.
Yeah, in terms of specific tips, because I also think this is a useful time to talk about it, to give because one of the things we said in the Meetup invitation is that we will give some advice what businesses can do. And one of the things I was recommended, and I think I've seen working really well during the crisis. And I guess crisis also hits different countries. We're now in Switzerland, of course. Now maybe it's flattening slightly, but the same will be probably happening in a week, maybe in the US and in other countries, maybe later. So I think the content that we also, information that we share here, I think it's quite useful. One of the things I saw that websites do, or customers assume that maybe the business is not running anymore. So I know this is a big thing, and that's what we've been recommending to our clients, to actually be proactive about communication and tell customers that they still deliver, they still are operating. And would you agree with that, Lucia, or is that something that you also saw?
Absolutely, I agree. I try, for example, with businesses where you can just postpone things to adapt the ads. Some others, they really had SEO on the project list. So, hello, that's the time to improve your content now and to just, figure everything out that you always wanted to do. Luckily, there are also some free courses coming up. I don't know if I should screen share, but I think everybody who's working in the search business might know Moz. Moz is one of the first and very large SEO consultancy in the US. And they put all academy courses, which usually cost like $100 each, for free until 31st of May. So these kind of stuff, sure, it's in English, but then again, it's free stuff, really good know-how. You can just get in and use the time for learning and also adapt your website. If it's in German, then they should surely come to me and I will tell them how to do it, or to you, or teach them how they can manage ads. But I really think it's a time to stay active and to adapt the message you push out. And sure, it's not now that they might sell or buy, but maybe later. So it's important to stay present, I think.
Cool. And Lydia, what are your kind of thoughts and how were you impacted or your company? And also any kind of practical tips you could share?
Yeah, so in my case, of course, as well, it's both good and bad. So as I was mentioning, I work mainly as a consultant for marketing strategy with B2B businesses, and B2B businesses tend to rely heavily on physical events that they prepare for months sometimes, and invest a lot of time and effort and money and communication around it. So it happened a lot that right now, of course, everything is cancelled. So product launches and different communications are just not happening. But with such businesses and clients that are usually slower, the good thing is that I was able to perhaps onboard them on more of a, or to rely more heavily on digital marketing tactics that are usually out of the question, such as automation or advertising on channels they normally don't advertise on, and also started exploring solutions such as virtual events for their clients that are exclusive, for example, and of course helping them automate this whole process because of course at least here in Switzerland many companies don't work so have Kurzarbeit and so on, and don't have the right capacity for it. So as long as it's automated, this is making the lives a little bit easier. Of course, really heavily investing in content, which is sometimes overseen, of course, but it's a really important thing to do right now. Both internal communication, if it's a really large client or enterprise, and also externally to clients, and as my colleagues here said, to really say, hey, we're still working, we still have an offering, we still have a product. We don't know how much longer this situation will last, and it could be that we are still working remotely for weeks or months. People will maybe at first were a little bit reluctant to advertise and kind of jump on the wave of coronavirus, but I mean, right now we just live our lives as usual, and we are consuming different services. So I just think it is okay as long as your communication is not very directly attached to something very negative, but more to the positive side of, hey, we are still here, we can still serve you and give you all the value that we gave before, just in a bit of a different way. So that's how it looks like on my side. It's a lot of adjustment and testing completely new channels with completely new clients.
And with B2B specifically, of course, if you're in Zurich, or most of us are in Zurich, actually all of us on this call are in Zurich, and I think if we run a B2B campaign, I think that's something I experienced with a Pilates studio that I go to once a week. They basically suddenly sent me an email and said, we cannot do the class, but you can do a live stream. But they didn't adjust the pricing. They just said, okay, go on and do the live stream. And I think that's really naive, because they think, I mean, as soon as you enter the online game, you're competing with the entire world, at least in the time zone that you're in. So I think that will be a challenge for those B2B companies that were relying heavily on the physical presence and maybe skills of a salesperson to close the deal. And now they don't have this physical contact. So I guess the kind of it's more level playing field for everyone. We need to compete on features, on benefits, and less on kind of unfair advantages. Would you agree with that? I guess that's for you, Lydia.
I absolutely agree with you. I really saw also really good examples. As you said, the Pilates studio or some B2B/B2C platforms for sports and trainings that adjusted their pricing in the last few weeks. Of course, it's not that easy to do with a larger organization, but it definitely shows people the value of being more lean and moving faster and testing things that they wouldn't necessarily test before.
And do you think your company also will have the same kind of issue, or was it heavily relying on the physical presence, or do you think you will also have now to compete online? Because if customers now go online and compare your offer to another offer from international competitors, do you think that will make you less competitive?
I think it's definitely competitive, and that's why also invest a lot in content to show this value really and point it down and so that everybody that goes online understands why working with us. And this is where we also leverage the whole story of coronavirus pushed us towards this situation, but we reacted really fast, and here's what we're offering. So really working a lot on content these days.
Okay, and Joel, in your case, in terms of B2B, because I guess you don't have really strong competitors and you're a purely online platform, so I guess you don't really have this effect that is bound to Zurich, let's say, or Switzerland.
I mean, we're not like facing such like, let's say, a region-specific challenges like in Zurich. We of course have like a bunch of larger competitors in the meanwhile, right? Like First Mover has been a bunch of years ago, and now we have Microsoft Teams and other companies basically entering the game. So competition is of course there. Competition is also reacting in terms of like running campaigns. It's definitely also a race against competition, reacting faster, getting the word and the offer out there faster. And then also, coping with the technical challenges, right? So I saw in questions before in the live stream around also technical limitations. And we've seen that, for example, also big companies like Microsoft could not handle the load, basically entering the game. So competition. They could not handle like the load and also like went down. And I think all of those tools are facing that issue at the same time. And also at Beekeeper, we're like putting a lot of additional resources into our like server setup that we can basically maintain the stability we have.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any thoughts on that, Lucia, in terms of B2B sales, or do you have any kind of good cases from the B2B sector?
Yeah, it's I rather agree what Joel and Lydia already said. So it's a matter of staying active, informed, but not spam your customers. Because I think also in the chat there was one comment like you should inform them that you operate, but it doesn't make sense to push them also via LinkedIn and so on. Like, hey, follow me now, connect me now, eat this, eat that. That's rather getting on the nerves. So it's not really great. But I think in matters of search engine marketing, it applies as usual for B2C and B2B likewise. I don't really make a difference here.
Sure. And
just stay active.
And did you see, because I mean, something I discussed with Marcus also this last week was pricing of advertising. Did you see any drops or moves in terms of click pricing and CPMs that are charged? And do you see any opportunities there?
Some search volumes were getting lower, especially in B2B. I noticed in some industries I consult and I manage their Google Ads accounts. So you have less demand. This doesn't mean necessarily that the price goes down. So you will have to observe probably a little bit longer. It depends on your targetings and so on. At the moment, I had the impression that it's slightly lowered, in fact, really, maybe 10, 20% could be. But I only have like 20, 30 accounts I can look in. So it might not be significant enough. But if you are in such industries active, it could really make sense to now be pushy while some advertisers just press the stop button.
Because we've seen that in, I still don't know, because as you said, I don't have a really statistically kind of significant evidence to say this is the case. But what my hypothesis is that since we are bidding a lot on ROAS as a target or a CPA target, we don't see a direct impact and say, CPA goes down from $20 to $5 because it's kind of all blended into the programmatic algorithm. So you don't really directly see this impact. But what I did see was that certain websites get a much higher visibility. So what we're looking at with clients, especially let's say news sites, and that's where normally large advertisers advertise. So we're looking at different ways to promote on news sites where actually people, and some of them, like some of the portals, news portals in Switzerland, suddenly get double the traffic that they used to get. So I think it's a good time to, I guess, be there if you want to attract completely kind of new audiences. And for a place like Switzerland, I think it's relevant because you sometimes struggle to get to new people, new customers. So I think, and probably people who didn't used to read news online, they now probably go online and actually consume more content. So I guess there will be new buyers out there.
Yeah, this is actually what you're saying, Luke, is exactly a tactic that I tried last week.
Okay. Can you talk more about it, how it went?
So I don't have significant results yet, unfortunately, but this is exactly the direction I was thinking about. What sites do have more traffic and how can we then advertise on those? Yeah.
Cool. And Marcus, quickly, do you have any thoughts on that in terms of because you also have quite a lot of experience in advertising on TV or offline? Do you see any obvious opportunities there, or what are your thoughts?
Well, TV is a bit longer term. Typically at least 2 weeks in advance you book your slots. Normally it's even like 6 to 8 weeks in advance you need to book your slots. So there currently we don't do any advertising on TV, or hardly any advertising on TV currently. But I don't know about the prices there, and they would certainly not have moved already. They might move in a couple of weeks, and there I actually suspect that they will increase the prices because digital out of home and all that kind of stuff doesn't make any sense if there is nobody on the streets. So the marketing spend per se must go into different channels, and you will see for sure you will see price movements in these channels. But astonishingly, and contrary to what I thought, and actually what I discussed with you last week, was that Matt, our online marketing manager, he told me yesterday that prices seem to go down online. Which I didn't check it. I noticed it, what he told me, but we'll see, and we'll have to look into it. But this sounds a bit like, if B2B advertising is dropping, and if these companies kind of, or some of them pull out of the market, yeah, there is slots that are available, and prices will move downwards, which would be a nice side effect, because that would mean we could advertise in a more aggressive way and be more visible online.
I have a question from our colleagues at Govago, which is a leasing platform in Switzerland, a car leasing company, and they're reporting that their CPCs increased by 15%, and their hypothesis is that bigger advertisers are also protecting their revenues. I'm not sure about that, but it's an interesting insight. We also have a couple of questions. Do you have any recommendations what tools to use to launch a digital campaign? So that's a big question. So maybe Lucia, where would you start? Like in any tools to launch a campaign or maybe channels?
I love data. So the first thing I would start with is Google Analytics and make sure that you have data to measure and to track the outcome of any kind of investment. Figure out what kind of conversions you want to measure. And then, yeah, sure, I have to say, check out your SEO. So look what kind of keywords you are found on for free on Google and the tools like Search Console, which is also for free to use, but also other SEO tools. You can activate them for 2, 3, sometimes 4 weeks for free, like testing, just to have a status where you are, and there try to get some, let's say, low-hanging fruits out of it. If it has to be quick, yeah, sure, Google Ads will help to bring you on position 1 or 2 visible on Google, and then I think some, especially in B2B, social media activities on LinkedIn with good content could also bring something in. Like I said, I'm working basically with small companies, so they don't have any clue about programmatic and also not the time and the budget for it. So it's a really low frill approach. What can you do with few money, few time to have a maximum effect? And there is search engine marketing surely one key point.
Cool. And Corinne also asked, and that's actually a good question about prices. Like, how would you, and do you think it's the right time to adjust prices? You mentioned malls that they give their content for free. And I saw, for example, HubSpot also, like they're really expensive normally, and they're doing an offer, a special offer due to the crisis. Do you think it's a good time now to lower prices or even give your product for free to help out businesses, or what's your view on that?
I think it really depends what you're offering. If it's a real difference in matters of service and what the client gets from you, because you have to do it digitally, then I think a price should be lower than before. Like what you said before with the Pilates example. If it's basically the same outcome in the end, a training held digitally or face to face, or you have to done it before, also in the same way, then yeah, you can also stay on it. Some schools, they go for free. I mean, Google trainings were always for free. Now they are digitally Academy on air instead of in Google Switzerland there in the offices. And some of the institutions, they also try to follow that to give some of the courses for free in, but they start to have let's say they keep in mind a backup sale purpose. So you give 1 or 2 things for free, but then you come up with the sales perspective that the follow-up courses, number 3, 4, 5, 6, there you have to pay for. So it's rather a goodie strategy and not just, hey, you can get everything, because you still have to pay some bills and get revenue in. So I would really not say, go for free and make everything. That sounds a little bit dramatic to me, and it's not a sustainable approach.
And Joel, do you think that's have you thought about at Beekeeper to lower the prices or give like a special COVID deal? Or
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we thought about that as well. And I think the most important point that came up very fast is that you kind of like don't want to like exploit the situation, right? You really want to help your customers. You want to help other companies that are out there. You want to be supportive. And this is also why you should basically put a package together where you give a special offer with a lot of value. In our case, that we offer for like a limited time, something for free for like industries that are hit hard, that it's like even longer. It's not free for forever, but it's like free for like a limited time period. So you clearly state, hey, we're here to help. This is also what you want that media picks up, right? You don't want to be seen and put in a bad light suddenly because you're like basically just using the situation. So I think this way is the right approach. And this way, we also perceive it as really an opportunity for lead capturing. We're like capturing now a lot of leads. We introduce a lot of users to our product. And then maybe or not maybe, but definitely at a later stage than when like the biggest pains are gone, when we provided value, we show them how we could provide value, that you then start and basically profit from the value you gave for free to those different industries.
Cool. I mean, I have lots of questions, and I think we'll probably be very soon running out of time. But I think following up on that, I think it's also interesting to look at international trends, because I think Corona also develops differently in different countries. So the virus, of course, I mean, we're probably, as I said at the beginning, we're probably towards the peak of the pandemic. So I guess it will develop later in other countries. So would you also use the trends, how the virus develops in different countries, to know when this becomes a problem? Because I guess if it's kind of flattening, people will be less desperate, let's say, to do something or to work from home. They will be more relaxed. They'll probably go to the office. Do you think that's a good time to look at your international strategy and look at countries that might be in trouble soon?
Was it addressed to me?
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
Again, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely, right? I mean, the entire situation is it's quite hard to calculate what's happening next, but like some things are also like foreseeable, right? First Italy, then Switzerland, and then of course then America is hit with like a bunch of weeks of delay. I think at this stage where we are at the moment, it's like clear to everyone that the coronavirus is a real thing and that it will take a little bit longer, and that like every country is going to be hit by it quite hard. So it's not like the same situation where, like, let's say 5 weeks ago, where we had to decide, hey, how much like resources are we gonna like invest into that? So should we jump on it or not? It's like pretty clear that it's happening in all the regions. So from that point on now, in our case at least, it's just to be as fast as possible and put things out there, even for countries that maybe have not been hit by the pandemic that hard like others, right? But the sooner we're out there, the better.
Mm. And one of the comments on the chat is that a couple of people mentioned, I think that Govago clarified also what they meant with the rise in the CPCs. It's more about larger businesses stopping their offline advertising, and more money, I mean, that's their hypothesis, that more money goes into digital, therefore the CPCs go up. But there's also some other people saying that they should be going down. So I think the jury is still out. I guess my conclusion here would be that for me, the cost of advertising has become a little bit less relevant. Actually, the CPC metric or CPM metric has become less relevant, because in the end, it's less about, it's kind of old school way of looking at it, that you reach so many people and so many eyeballs. Now it's about performance and ROAS or basically CPA costs. So that's why we have, I guess, programmatic advertising. We don't have to worry too much about the cost of individual clicks. So I'm not sure if I'm completely kind of obsessing at the moment about CPCs. And so again, I know because Marcus will be replaced in 15 minutes by Mario. So I want to make sure that we also talk about the hygiene campaign. Before we move on to the hygiene campaign, I also maybe share a couple things I saw in Zurich with other companies adapting and changing their offering. For example, I know from the staff at the university hospital in Zurich, they now can use the Publi bike for free. So they made a deal with the provider of the bike sharing platform, that the hospital staff is using their bikes for free. We also work with Bubblebox. It's a laundry and dry cleaning company that has a home delivery. So they, of course, have been impacted because less people go to work, then there are less shirts that need to be ironed and so on. But they also came up with a deal for the hospital staff. Yeah. So, Marcus, do you think there is anything you could do in terms of, hospitals, or have you thought also about that? Is that the right time, or is it probably not the right moment?
I mean, it would be an extremely interesting market for us, obviously. But it's also a very dangerous market because we're getting into grounds that are not, let's say, statistically and clinically underpinned. When it comes to Philab A, it's about delivery of active ingredients and cleansing of your skin to prepare it for the take up of the active ingredients. Now, obviously, when you peel a skin, you will take off viruses, you will take off bacteria, you will take off makeup and so on off your skin. That is an obvious fact, but that's okay, I'd say, if you talk to the end user who basically needs to understand what you're talking about. As soon as you when you go to nurses, for instance, or when you go to doctors even, then it's a very dangerous thing you're doing because it could really go into the wrong direction. And also it would, in my opinion, look like we all see the dog. It's a cool animal. It's difficult not to look like you're wanting to exploit the current situation. I mean, we're offering a deal to all flight staff of Swiss, but we started to do that 3 months ago. So basically, that is something we can reinforce. Now we're struggling with the unions of Swiss because they don't want us to do that for various reasons. But that's a point which makes sense because it was always our goal to come closer to people who are traveling a lot because of the strains to their skin. So Philab A makes sense and so on. But when you go to a doctor, when you go to a nurse, and now you explain her, hey, look, you're so cool. I mean, you're really helping society. And we want to help you now by reducing the prices or giving specific offers. It's a bit fishy, to be honest.
And how did you approach the blog? Because I know you wrote a blog about Philab A and how it kind of helps you potentially avoid bacteria and kind of keep your skin healthy and clean. Can you talk about that? Like, how would you write content? And how did you approach it so that it doesn't look like you're trying to also profit from this situation, but actually offer more of a help and solution?
Well, there is actually two aspects to it. First of all, as a company, normally you have your blogs, you have your content SEO optimized into certain topics. Now, all of a sudden, people are looking for other stuff when they look for skin cleansing. It's not about a lotion anymore. It's about an antiseptic. So basically, all your CEO content is gone if you want. So it makes it much more difficult. So the first thing is to really understand what can you do to become, again, relevant in that aspect without, again, looking fishy. I mean, obviously, you want the word COVID-19 in a blog. Obviously, you want the word hygiene in a blog. Obviously, you want the word health and so on in a blog, if in our position you're writing a blog. So the first thing was really to think about in depth how can you really match the topics so that they're obviously matchable for the reader and not like a forced match. That was the first thing. And the second thing was I didn't much write about Philab A in the blog, actually. I wrote about how to keep your face clean. And the good thing about it is the measures are exactly the same for people that are suffering from severe skin problems. And that is probably the big difference from us as a cosmetic company to other cosmetic companies. We really take a holistic approach. So if somebody is suffering for years from skin inflammation, if somebody is suffering for years from acne, the first thing these people have to do if they want to be successful, wash your hair every day. Wash your hands, disinfect your hands a couple of times a day. Disinfect your hand, disinfect your devices that you have around you, because that's all that you touch your face all the time. I mean, I'm now watching you guys during this call, and I must say you're extreme. None of you has touched the face so far. Lydia, you have gone into your hair once. Yeah, you did something, Rania. You have gone into your hair once.
I'm the loser here, I think.
Typically.
It's because you're on the call, that's why.
I don't think so. It's because we're so focused on something. But typically, you touch your face like 23 to 30 times an hour without being conscious of it. So that means the transfer of germs into your face is a huge issue. Now, and we really see that when people use Filabe for blemished skin and it's not working, the first thing we ask is how often do you use it really? Do you use it every day? If that's a yes, then what do you do about your cushion? What do you do about your hands? What do you do about your hair? Because these are all points where you leave traces, where you leave germs. So for the customers from our side, the text had not many news in it, but I shifted the angle of the text and put it rather towards the virus instead of the bacteria. And I think that, we had really a lot of very positive comments on it. Also on Instagram, people just mailing or sending us a message, hey, thank you for the information. They were following us for years or months already, but they come back because they find value in the text.
Great.
And then also what I did, it's a very long blog. So they realized, okay, it's not a sales blog now. It's really about the topic. We want to go into depth and we want to analyze the situation and then promote things. And only at the very end, I closed the link to Filabe and I said, look, that's actually also what Filabe can help you, and not what Filabe does, but what Filabe can help you with. And I think also that not being too proud about the product is very important in the current situation. If you link yourself into the corona issues.
Yeah, so be a bit less sales oriented, more kind of
a bit more humble. Yeah.
And we also, I think, just to add to this, because I know we worked on that campaign or the second part of this campaign on distribution. So I know we're distributing that content also to communities on Facebook and Instagram, and so far I think it works well, and I can say we also did sell some products on the back of it, so it's not just content. And one final question for you, Markus, before you leave, is I think it would be interesting to know, because I know you have a financial background. Also looking at stock markets, and if you plan marketing at the moment, what data do you look at to see, when is it going to improve, or are there any data points that you think are useful to manage your budget, or to know, okay, shall I increase now advertising or lower my advertising, and how do you approach this?
Well, it's very much like online advertising. You have alpha beta tests, and basically you try something and then you have a look at it, because I'm a strong believer in data, but with my background, I also know about the limited quality of data when it comes to markets, and there is huge biases there, and the quality of the data is pretty much a stomach feeling in the end. So you just try things, and what is clear that you have to be circling around the topics that are currently out there. What I'm doing a lot is being online, looking at blogs, at concerns of people. What are the real concerns of the people now? It's not toilet paper, but it's probably how do I protect myself from getting infected? And nevertheless, they end up buying toilet paper, so it must be a concern. But so basically, that's what I'm watching closely, and then trying to come up with a link to Filabe with these topics, and then go into that direction.
Cool. That's really smart.
It's a slow. It's not something you can do one day and then you know what you're doing. The situation has become more complex now, obviously.
That's really smart, because I know we talked to Facebook, and they also told us that there are certain industries that are getting much more impressions or visibility, and those are kind of topics related to security, insurance, and we also work with a wealth management company, and we looked at search volumes, and we see that a lot of more people look for financial planning or inheritance, succession planning. So people who maybe were playing golf all the time and not neglecting those issues are now looking at, now I need to do something about my future, for example. So I know there are definitely some opportunities there, and I think it's really smart, as you said, to look at customer needs. Okay, great. So I think we'll move on to another case that I wanted to share from what we did. So Marcus, is there anything you wanted to add before you log off, or how was the experience today on the first broadcast ever? I think you've participated.
Well, to be honest, it was a great experience. It feels like being in an office, to be honest. For me, it's really not a big difference. The difference is actually that you have the people in front of you. Typically, when you're sitting around a table, you have to move your head. So it's even kind of more intimate. Great experience. Thank you very much. And
thanks so much for joining, and thanks for sharing the info.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Great. I don't know how I need to
get out, actually.
Remove. I'll remove you. Okay. So now we'll add Mario. So I don't know, Lydia, whilst I'm adding Mario, maybe do you want to comment on anything that we discussed just now? And I'll try to include Mario in the call.
I think that one of the points that was mentioned is really the fact that we don't talk about, we have a product, it can help you with coronavirus and so on. But these are actually not new tips. So it's one of the things I'm always telling to my clients is that you need to take a few steps back from your product or from your offering and actually create content that is not necessarily related directly to it, but more of thinking deeply, what value can I bring, or what content piece can I create that does not exist there anymore, that is relevant, that somebody cares about. And of course, at the bottom, on the side, in a very subtle way, we can talk about ourselves, but just don't forget to take a few steps back.
Perfect. Any more comments from you, Joel, on that, or what we just discussed before we move on to another topic?
No, I think let's move on.
All right. Lucia, any thoughts on that? No? Okay. Because one of the things I wanted to share quickly with everyone, and Mario is here now. So hello, Mario.
Hi, everyone.
So do you want to quickly introduce yourself to everyone? Because we're online, we have a few people watching us. We have about 50 people on YouTube. So it's actually more than I expected. Turnout is so far better in percentages than we have in physical meetings. Because in the physical meetup, we get about 30-40% no-shows. So actually online, it turns out to be higher. So lower no-shows number. So that's great. So maybe Mario can quickly introduce yourself and I'll bring something up.
Hi, everyone. I hope my audio quality is sufficient.
It's superb.
I am great. So I'm on the technical side at What. I'm working on web applications, content management system-based websites, and also native apps. And we help companies in Switzerland and across Europe to sell more online. And we do that by providing them with customer touch points and portals. So we work with startups, but also with bigger companies here in Zurich and across the country and Europe.
Great, cool. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the call is because of the post that we did. So I'll share this also with the audience on YouTube. We basically had a conversation because I work with Mario and Marcus on a daily basis, and we basically thought about how can we as a company help the community, because we were we were of course affected by the virus, but our impact is, compared to kind of what others are saying, is very limited, because we basically run a distributed team, and we've been doing this for last 5 years nearly. So the only difference for me and Mario is that we cannot go to lunch together, but other than that, it's business as usual for us. So we miss each other, but it's not a disaster, right? We can still do our work, and most of our clients luckily have not had a huge impact. So one of the things we thought is, we're doing okay, our team is available, we're working as normal, how can we use those skills to help the community? And we decided to write this post on LinkedIn. So I've shared it with you so you can see what we wrote. We said basically we want to help. We are looking for, how can we use our capabilities to help fight the spread of the virus. And the response has been great. I mean, we had on this post we had more than 30,000 impressions on LinkedIn, and I think that's been probably one of our most successful posts. I mean, it's still quite modest, but for Swiss terms, I guess it's a good visibility and it's free advertising. Although we didn't really do it to profit, but we did it to really help. And it resulted in a couple projects. So we actually were asked to create, it's called a COVID report. So maybe, and that's why I also wanted to ask Mario to talk about it. Because as far as I know, from what I saw, we created a new app within 3 or 4 days, and we released it to help hospitals share information. So maybe, Mario, are you able to quickly explain kind of what the project was about, and as much as you can share, and kind of encourage maybe others to also use it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll post a link to the repository later on. It's open source, so in theory, everybody could grab the code and run the project, set up hosting somewhere, and then go live. So this is a tool that we created for canton, a Swiss canton, Basel-Land. The crisis team, they put together, they needed a way to get data from different players in the health economy, so hospitals, general practitioners, doctors, so anybody who would be in touch with corona patients would need to report data to the government, to the crisis team, so that the crisis team could base their decisions on true and recent data. So we've heard about it in the news. It's very difficult to get reliable data about what's really going on. So the federals are reporting different data than the cantons. So it's a bit of a chaos, and the cantons need first-hand data, and they need it in real time nearly. So the tool is able to do that. It onboards players in the health industry, like hospitals and doctors that are independently working, and then it asks them to provide data on a regular basis, periodically. And if the players are not adding the data, then they will get a reminder, and they will see a lot of red color in the email. So it's kind of builds urgency for these players to actually be up to date and really provide the data quickly, and not just 2 weeks later.
And in terms of the development, I mean, I guess, what was your experience and how other companies, because for us it's quite normal to deliver quickly and just do our work, but do you think, are there any tips you can share in terms of getting this type of project quickly off the ground, and also why would this crisis team come to us and not their IT team or IT department?
Yeah, so we are used to work in an agile, lean manner, but I think this set a completely different benchmark. We started knowing about this project on a Friday night. We started on Saturday, and then a week later we went live with it. So Canton is now using this and is onboarding clients already. Users, I mean. So bringing this up within a week was really challenging. We had to really throw together the team quickly. We also, of course, took them off other projects. We asked clients to be. We warned clients that on their projects there would be some delay. So we kind of made room for it. I think the most important factor, so that this could go live quickly, was a lean approach. So we really focused on the core functionality on the core value for the canton. We were in touch with the crisis team, so we updated the mock-ups, the wireframes in real time. So the whole communication was very quick. They answered within the hours. So the whole communication with the client was really also crucial for this to work.
And any tips, general tips, like because also you have a marketing background. I mean, I don't know if you were listening to our conversation earlier. Apart from the tool, are there any tips you see or things that you see that businesses could do now, or what is the right time to do, where they should invest their resources at the moment?
Well, I'm now facing a lot of conversations with project teams that are on ongoing projects, and their companies are now deciding whether they should continue with them or whether they should pause them or altogether cancel them to save budget for, the survival mode. So I'm looking at it a bit more from the side of existing projects that are maybe cancelled now. From a marketing point of view, I think so everybody does stuff online now. So I think it's probably a wake-up call for everybody who is not yet doing a digital business. I think for many other companies that are already doing digital business, it's maybe also a time to really invest into their core systems and really make sure that now that they have time to make sure that they're ready for the boost after this crisis.
Okay.
So I have very similar thoughts about this as Lucia just mentioned 10 minutes ago.
So less Netflix and more kind of learning and gearing up and kind of learning, right?
Absolutely. I think companies, now is the time to really go to the next level. It's a great opportunity because maybe shops are closed, maybe you have resources now available, maybe everything is a bit more quieter, but now this is really the unique chance to go into strategic topics and push them. And of course, there's also the other companies like Digitech, they're completely run over, or IKEA online. So these guys are completely going crazy. They have no time for anything, but there's maybe also the other side.
Interesting. You mentioned.
If you look,
go on, Lucia.
If you look in the economy in Switzerland, you have 90% small business running here with less than 9 people employed. So many of them have to work shortly. Some have to stay at home. And honestly, there's so much work to do on the SEO and the website part. I'm sometimes really surprised that even small online shops don't measure anything. They have no clue about any data. It's like, okay, if you don't like analytics, use something different, but use something. They don't have any information yet. How many clicks, how many orders came in from which media. They spend money, thousands of Swiss francs per year to any kind of institutions there or ads, and have no clue what it's coming out. And that's really a moment where you can change this lack of knowledge. Even in video conference skills, I think only last week I had at least 15 entrepreneurs who now know how to use, it was Google Hangout, but yeah, at least some digital connection with their team. They were really lost in everywhere. So I think this is really a time to follow up on this kind of knowledge and to grow it, to be ready for the present, not for the future.
I mean, it forced us as well to do the meetup online. I mean, we didn't have a scheduled meetup, and that was on my mind for a while to do it online. But I think we also got a boost, and thanks to that, we also have the call tonight. And I think, Joel, do you have any kind of tips, or how would you use your resources now? Not at Beekeeper, because I hear you're busy, and I think you have plenty to do. So I think you have a different challenge. But if you were a small company or a small business that is affected, kind of where would you focus your thinking time and your resources?
It's a very good question, and I mean, yeah, as we all agree, right? Every business, every product is different and is also like affected completely different. But as maybe a general rule or guideline, what I would do is that if there is the chance that your product or service is somehow solving a new or more emphasized pain point created through the corona virus campaign, then try at least to launch a campaign going into this direction, like not shifting your entire business, but try to basically surf the wave and launch a campaign. And a part of that, yeah, exactly as was mentioned before, like there's so much internal work for efficiency and training, which now not related to Beekeeper, but also at Beekeeper, we have like a ton of work which should be done, and I think this is applicable for everyone. And how should I say, these difficult times can also be seen as like an opportunity for like a stop of the music. You have now time to reshuffle and do some of the work you've never done before, to come out with more strength if you have like the luxury, so you don't have to go into total survival mode until like it stops.
Cool. And one thing I wanted to bring up, I mean, I saw the message from one of the e-commerce shops. I mean, Mario mentioned Digitech, and I also shared the link with the YouTube audience. You guys can have a look. I mean, it's a quick video from one of the from the CEO of Steg. It's an e-commerce shop selling kind of computer equipment and all sorts of stuff. And he came up with a really interesting concept. It's basically, he said, it was like, I don't know, Lucia, if you saw it, but he basically said, we have facility to sell online. We have a good website, we have warehouse, we have all the logistics, we have fulfillment. If you are a small business, please come to me and we will sell your products through our channels and we will work out the deal. So if you're not ready, if you have slept over this kind of e-commerce, so he's actually offering help to that. What have you seen it, and what do you think of this approach? Because he's kind of launching merchant center, right? What we see at Amazon, or kind of affiliate model. So Lucia, have you, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I saw that, and I think it's a great initiative. I mean, not to profit, but to benefit from the situation in a welfare way that is really helping out others who have no web shop running, which could be found on Google and that's functioning, because you don't build that in 2 days. You know better than me by building websites like Mario and so on. I think that's a great initiative to help others out. And at the same time, it could be a win-win situation. So I think that's a great idea.
Mm. Lydia, what do you think of that? I don't know if you managed to catch this, but
I actually haven't seen it before, but I absolutely agree. The idea is quite good.
Yeah, and I think he's got, I saw, I mean, this morning, and I think he had quite a lot of responses from businesses. So I think it's for me, this is a nice example of good content, how good content looks like on LinkedIn without actually advertising. And I think the fact that he's the CEO and he's standing in front of the shop, I think the setting is perfect, and I think he's done it really well, and it's really authentic.
Also, a really good example I've seen is actually a few smaller businesses, shops in Zurich that do have e-commerce, but they maybe 70% of their revenue comes from people just passing by the shops. So they went online with social media campaigns saying like, hey guys, we have an e-shop as well, and just so you know, you can order, etc. So it's, I think, Instagram, maybe TikTok as well is a really good channel to invest on right now if you have a B2C product locally. I think it's definitely worth some budget, to put some budget behind it.
Cool. And what sort of shops did you see that were doing this? I mean, can you give a specific example?
Yes, one example that I've seen is Print Matters, which is a bookshop somewhere in Kaisvier. which I specifically really love and buy there. And I really like the fact that they just came out and said like, hey, we are really struggling right now, and if you like us, if you buy books, just order online. We're there and we're working. And I found it a really genuine message without going too much into self-pity or self-promotion. And also a thank you message that's followed up on really showing, hey, actually people are buying and ordering.
So it's more of a kind of campaign to save the bookstore rather than just to kind of increase sales, right? It's just to help them survive through those times. Yeah. And can you share the link so that we can then share it with the audience?
Yes, I'll search for it right now.
Cool.
There was that example on LinkedIn with the Orchidee online shop, like the flowers. I think they have a whole bunch of stock, and they had to sell it online with their and fixed a web shop to sell it better. And now they are so overwhelmed by help, like by commands, that they need help to send it out. And then so that also worked very well. So like asking for help when you have a great product, showing that, hey, if you don't buy it now, it might be not anymore in shape. I think that works well on social media.
Cool. Thanks for that, and thanks for the example, Lydia. I'm just gonna share it. Any other? Have you seen anything else? Any other good examples of good advertising or campaigns that you've seen recently? That's a question to all.
I definitely, on my Instagram feed at least, I definitely see a lot more promoted posts from local smaller businesses, like flower shops, for example, of, hey, show somebody that you care about them, or you think about them, send them flowers and so on. So it is interesting to me because I'm not so often targeted by local businesses. So it seems like many have implemented new tactics and really go and try out these channels.
And one question we have also from the chat is what growth hacking strategies do you see as promising now that physical meetings are not an option? So outside of SEO and SEA. So Joel, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, of course. So
we lost your audio. Sorry, Joel, the audio doesn't work. So when you're figuring out the audio, maybe Lydia, do you want to take that in the meantime?
Sorry, so I missed it.
The question was, so Joel, tell us when you're ready. So the question was, what growth hacking strategies do you see as promising now that the physical meetings are not an option? So how do you, I guess, connect with customers online outside of the SEO and SEA?
I think actually not much of the tactics have changed, but I would change the context a little bit. So the channels and the way we target is quite similar, but maybe targeting on new specific websites where there's more traffic is one of the hacks that I tried, for example, or just adjusting the messaging to keywords that are now more relevant, or even targeting. For me, for example, I definitely saw that some search terms that for B2B that are usually more expensive are actually less expensive right now. And then really bid on those more. But I wouldn't change much, to be honest. I think it's also growth hacking is quite a long-term strategy of just systematically trying new things. So I would just keep investing in those experiments and make a clear pipeline with the context of Corona. Yeah.
Joel, you started answering the question.
Yeah, sorry. Does it work now?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, so what I wanted to say is that one thing we're trying out is basically jumping on that, like, let's say, thought leadership train, right? So your audience or your industries, they're all like facing the same pains at the moment. They all have the same question. And basically, if you manage to connect those leaders, all those people having the same pain, in their in the same audience, or in our case in the same industry, and you basically facilitate the environment, like for example a webinar, a fireside chat, a chat group, Facebook group, something like that. You get a good hold on that audience, and by being constructive and supporting them, of course, then you can also advertise your own product when it solves that pain as well, right? And there it's also basically kind of like a race, right? The first people that are going to create such groups are going to win the race, and I think it's a good option of basically replacing what we're now missing at real events through something digital.
And what do you see as I saw one company doing kind of virtual sessions with celebrities, for example, right, to promote their products, and I think that was a restaurant. So do you have any kind of ideas? How can you create this? Of course, we have webinars and stuff like that, but that existed forever, and I think it's different. People go to conferences to kind of meet and schmooze and eat. And I think it's different if you suddenly have to sit at your desk at home and do a webinar. So I think that, is there any kind of different way we can invent or reinvent webinars to make them more exciting to people, or what are your thoughts on that?
Difficult question, right? I think at this time of people having real pains and of having urgency and having a lot of information in the media, there's also the need for, let's say, the right information. So people are looking for professionals. People are also switching from only reading free media to suddenly paying for media consumption. So there, I think finding the right people, the right experts talking about those issues could be a good starting point, where you basically just replace basic webinars we knew previously to really have very sophisticated expert talks that talk about those exact pains your target audience is facing at this point.
Okay, so in your example, let's say example of a beekeeper, you could think of, let's say, creating a webinar with a PR crisis management guru that happens to also use Beekeeper, for example, right? Or maybe recommends Beekeeper.
Something like that. Or what we can do is, for example, we take one of our customers within the food manufacturing industry, which was very well prepared for the coronavirus and already has overcome its first challenges. And then we basically do an interview, or we call it fireside chat, with that particular customer, where other companies, if they're our customers or not, can benefit a lot from, as they're facing the exact same challenges.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Lydia, you would like to add something to that?
I just thought of actually a really good example of a company here in our area that really adjusted super fast to the coronavirus. Yeah, this is My Clubs, if you know it. They are sort of a subscription for gyms, and all the gyms are obviously closed around our areas. They're mainly really strong in Zurich, Switzerland, and Austria. And I know that they launched an online platform for that maybe took them 1 week to make for online trainings, as well as adjusted their prices. And I just remembered it because I get notifications on my phone now every day about a different online training, and I think it's also really nice example to look at for responding really fast to this crisis.
Mm. But if you, let's say, in a watch industry at the moment, yeah, and say your Basel World was cancelled and you cannot go and meet the traders to sell your thousands of watches, what do you do? Or is it kind of just, as we talked before, is it a wake-up call for these people who maybe ignored the digitalization, or do you think there is a way to still recreate this experience in a digital way?
Absolutely. I think Basel World is a good example, because actually it's not going very well in the last few years anyway. because there are less people visiting it and so on. I think definitely the trend was there before. It just accelerated really, really fast into digitalization and really taking this seriously and adjusting these tactics, because I don't think you can really rely nowadays only on physical presence anymore.
Cool. Lucia or Joel, do you have anything to add to this? The question is more kind of how do we, I would say, replace physical conferences, and is there a way to replace them, or do you think there's a way to, or will they come back? Do you think, or it will be changed forever?
I think the learnings the companies go through now, they will stay in a way that they're able to combine this knowledge with the old school, physical, traditional way that is also great to have, just to make sure that I'm not really a fan of completely home office and no contact. By the way, I don't really like the word social distancing because it's actually wrong. It's physical distancing we need, but not social distancing, because we are here socially together.
That's a good point.
So I think the term is actually wrong chosen. It should say stay physically apart, but stay socially close, because that is exactly what we need at the moment, helping each other like Malte with Steak is doing, or offering services more online. I could cite Our Room Fit, which is also a personal training. They created several videos. You can book actually the personal trainer. So he's making a hangout or a video conference with you while you are doing the exercise at home. So it's quite funny what kind of creative solutions come up. And I'm sure some of them, or maybe many of them, should stay and will stay.
Cool. That's great. And thanks for sharing the MyClubs link. I will post that also on the channel. I think we're running out of time slowly anyway. So are there any kind of final thoughts from you guys, or what are, maybe we will finish off with kind of a prediction. What do you think will happen in the next few weeks, and will it kind of be back to normal, or and how long do you think it will take to go more or less back to normal? You can start, Lydia. I don't know if you have to think about it, or...
I'm really not really optimistic, to be honest. I think we are stuck with it at least until end of May in this current situation of physical distancing at least. But in my opinion, everything will go back to normal at the end. It's not the first pandemic that the world has seen. Of course, it's, I think, the one that is really, really bad. But there have been ones before, and you know, life goes on. So I think we will all go back to normal and also working as usual.
Joel, what's your prediction?
Well, I mean, we can go down the rabbit hole here, like pretty far, right? But let's not say like prediction, but just like a slight assumption. But I think the entire problem also why government is reacting is just the limiting factor of like the hospitals, right? And while we're like slowing down the people that enter the hospital, we're also building up the capacity of the hospitals, and this will be basically the triggering point to either like make stronger rules or lower them, right? The pandemic is happening, the people are going to be like affected anyways, right? And it also must happen, so we get over it. But the trigger is really like hospital capacity and people getting in, right? And I think as we're now building up the capacity, people will calm down, and what we will see is that the government is coming up with new additional rules that are actually hopefully softening the environment again, so certain shops can open again under certain specific circumstances. This is at least what I expect after now this mass hysteria which has been created over the past weeks, and also those very fast and strong rules they had to implement in no time.
Yeah, I like that idea, because I definitely can see it happening at airports, for example. I was also kind of brainstorming myself ideas for like how can you restart an airport now, right? Do you have to like list all the passengers or disinfect the entire aircraft or every single person to let them on board, and kind of what tests, medical tests you have to do at the airport to allow people to fly, for example. And I think that there will be new rules for sure, and people will adjust their processes. Mario, what's your view and your prediction? You read news a lot, so I think you must be up to date.
Yeah, well, I think we definitely have to face the next crisis. After the health crisis, there's the economic crisis, which is probably going to develop independently from the health crisis now, because it's already self-sustaining. I mean, the economic crisis is probably now by itself going to stay for a while at least. Personally, I expect a boost. So I expect that after the health problems are solved, after this is contained, we will start very low. But I think there is a lot of potential for quite some fireworks, economic fireworks. So I predict a race, and I think who is not positioning themselves well now will lose in the race that follows. So I think it's very important to be well positioned now, to be in the starting position, to then be able to go up quickly. I think the people are starting to learn and to think differently, and I think it's a huge opportunity for the whole digital sector, because even the last person in Switzerland has now understood that digital is the future. And I think this will create extreme dynamics in the upcoming month, which is a huge opportunity.
Great, thank you for that. Lucia, do you have any kind of predictions, or what do you think it will?
Yeah, I agree with what Mario says. And what I observed already is that people behave much more respectful to each other. Might it be just because they are afraid that, oh, maybe I get sick because of that? But, you don't have to speed up anymore that much. You can be patient. And I think this is quite healthy somehow. What's also for our mind, what's also very important, I've seen in the chat twice the question already, what can we do now to help the healthcare workers? I have many friends working actually in hospitals as doctors and nurses and so on. And the message that everybody probably saw on social media platforms was, you stay at home because we stay here for you. So that's basically it. We stay home. We do what we do right now. We don't have any physical contact with anybody except our very close family members. And that's basically all what we can do at the moment, because none of us is probably able to invent any kind of vaccination, which is the only thing that would really help us in future close by, like probably in the winter season, so not get up another follow-up pandemic, which is not excluded though. So I think no panic, but respect to each other, to the rules, and then we work on what we do best, our business, to also grow again once the crisis is over.
That's good thought, and I think you're a natural journalist. You should do it more often, Lucia. I think I shared a link. What I saw, the company did in Italy. They actually got in touch with Decathlon, and they printed some additional adapter to a scuba mask, so that they can then. I think they produced 500 of them and gave it to hospitals in Italy. So that was kind of an example of actually physically doing something. But as you said, it's probably the best we can do now is to stay out of the hospital and respect their work. My personal prediction, just to finish off, is that what I'm interested in, it's very difficult to predict because I think it will go back to normal soon. But what I'm interested in is kind of this international trends, because I observe the stats, kind of how the virus spreads, and this country is 5 days behind this country, and this country is 10 days behind that country. So I think it's really interesting to see where you could, how the phase of denial, or how countries go from the phase of denial to, have their oh shit moment and then actually do something. And I think this pattern repeats in every country, depends on what media you read. So I think you can actually learn a lot, like in terms of even marketing and sales, from what we do now in Switzerland, and maybe apply that in the US in 1 week. So I find that fascinating at the moment. Cool. But thank you so much for participating in this. So I really appreciate it because I know it was last minute. So I hope you enjoyed the experience, and thanks for everyone who tuned in on YouTube. So we'll publish this on YouTube, and if we have good feedback, I'll look at comments later. If it was not too embarrassing, I'm sure we'll do it again, right? So thanks a lot, everyone, and have a nice evening.
Thanks a bunch, everybody. Thanks for hosting.
Thanks, and stay healthy.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Stay home. Bye.